So this is one of the first episodes I ever recorded, and it was just sort of on my own, and it's pretty good, I guess. But I just figured I would spice it up just a little bit, add a little salt and pepper, by telling you a quick story before I let you into the episode. So a couple years ago, I think it was like 4th of July. And we went to a Little Rock, I think they're called the Little Rock Travelers, maybe. Anyways, it's like a minor league team, and it's based out of Little Rock. And me and two of my friends, and then their wives, and my wife went, and we had a good time. And earlier that day, we had went to the water park, so we were sort of all drained. Or me and my wife were. I don't know if they went or not, or we met them later. I don't think they went. That's irrelevant. So we went to the Travelers game, and of course, everyone who goes to a baseball game knows you got to get like a beer or something like that. So after the game, the lines to the bathroom are egregiously long. I mean, it's ridiculous. So we're all standing in line, or, the girls' line's even longer, because guys, pull it out, shake it off, and we bounce out. The girls, it just takes longer. So we're all standing in line, and it's me and Josh and Corey. And there's this huge long line, and there's like these urinals all along the wall. And then, you got your stalls. They're all filled. Well, this one comes open next to this little boy. And this little boy has his pants down to his ankles, like straight up old school. Like, that's the way to do it. I mean, let's just be real. And if you're a little boy. And like, no one is going next to this urinal. Like, I don't know if they're afraid, or what, or if they're just going to wait on him. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go over there. So I go over there and, pull up next to this little guy. And, he's doing his business, whatever. And I guess to make him feel comfortable, I thought it was necessary that I pull my pants all the way down to my ankles. So there's this bathroom full of guys who need to take a piss. And they don't go stand next to this little boy. I don't know what, if they're scared or whatever. But I just pull my pants all the way down to my ankles, bare butt. This urinal comes open next to me, and I hear one of the guys in line go, "No, you can have that one." And then Corey comes next to me and starts doing his business, and he's just dying laughing. Like, we're all laughing because it's there's these line of guys, and then there's me, pants down to my ankles, bare butt, and this little boy, pants down to his ankles, bare butt. So I don't know. Just want to make him feel comfortable. I hope one day, when my son is going through that stage, that I, I'm all about making people feel inclusive. No one wanted to, he was trying to be, a big boy, and no one wanted to help him out or stand next to him, rather. So, anyways, that was a unique moment. It was funny. So, yeah, that's it. If you're new to the podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you gave us 5 stars on iTunes and maybe subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. It helps get me more listening-ship, whatever. Helps get me more listeners. So, yeah, on to the episode. Peace.
My family don't see me more, that's growing up. And now they're calling me C4, I'm blowing up. So if we sitting on seesaws, we going up. Some people get going, but I love it when the going's tough. Too young to know enough, too old to play the part, too cool for showing up, too dumb to say what's smart. So I'm a substitute, waiting for the game to start. But I ain't trying to get played like change your heart. Chuck Woolery, I host and rip the stage apart. And hopefully you're willing to admit that I have made my mark. And may I park and find me another ride. I'm letting foreigners tell you how I feel inside.
Welcome to another episode of the Just Go With It podcast. Our sponsor today is ... No one. We still don't have a sponsor, which I can't say I'm surprised because I don't even have my website ready, nor have I posted it on iTunes or any of that jazz. But hopefully that will be alleviated. Is that the right word? I guess it could be used in that context. In another week, I've got hopefully someone working on my logo. I just don't want to have any logo, like I want it to be something, fairly unique. Not that it's going to matter a whole lot, but, this is more of a therapeutic podcast in some respect. I just come on the mic and I'll eventually have guests, but it's more of just my thoughts, sort of streams of consciousness, that things I've been thinking about, things I want to do, things that irritate me, just a whole sort of gambit of things. So I saw something today, and his name, he came in to get measured for a tuxedo, and his name was Jade, and then the other gentleman with him, which I assume was his son, was named, I think it was Jason, maybe? I don't remember. But I just can't picture a mid-50-year-old man, his name being Jade. I don't know. You ever just see someone, they look like a John, or, I just can't see a guy who's in his mid-50s having a name like Jade. Maybe that makes me sort of old-fashioned, but I don't know. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like you would sort of expect his name to be like Bill or John, or maybe if you're a little more risque, maybe it's like Keith or something. I don't know. They don't even make any sense. You know what I'm talking about, though. How you you're gonna name your son Jade in the, presumably in the 50s. It's probably when he was born. Maybe 60s. And his name's Jade. I don't even know how that name comes about. It doesn't seem like a popular 50s and 60s name. There definitely wasn't Google, so you couldn't look up vintage names or modern names or all these. It seems like they're going back to the vintage theme. That's sort of what's trendy now, as I talk to you in 2018. I know I'm having another girl. I don't have a soundboard, or I do a little clap. I'm having another girl in late November, early December. And we've got a couple names picked out. But I think we'll probably end up picking the name that my wife wants to pick. Just because it has a sentimental feel to it. My son's name is Nash, and his middle name is Bobby Wade. It's a hyphen, Bobby Wade. She had a uncle who had Down syndrome, and his name was Wade. And so we were going to use that all along. And then the same year that, we found out that we were going to have a little boy, the same year we found out we got pregnant, my dad passed away. I mean, it was like within a 2-week time span, seemingly nothing was wrong on the outside. And then just all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, he passed away. And then I actually got to tell him, though, before he passed that we were going to name, we were going to add Bobby to his middle name. And to this day, I still don't think he, actually knew that, that he was going. He was always super positive. There was never, maybe when I grew up, maybe there were times where he, got irritated. I know he got irritated, but I mean, as far as looking at the big picture of things, nothing was ever, things were always working for the greater good. And to some extent, I believe that, but he was, just adamantly always believed that things were going to work out for the best, no matter what the situation was. And, I don't think he even knew that, he passed away in a way where, they had, sort of put him to sleep or sedated him, and then he just passed on. It wasn't like, I don't even think he knew it, It was like he fought to the very end until he had nothing left. And that's something I want to touch on briefly. I don't get how people can just... One thing that irritates me in life is when people sort of tell you about their plans. And I'm not saying you can't, make plans. That's sort of ridiculous. Obviously you can make plans and you need to plan for your future or whatever it may be. But some people tell you what they're going to, it's hilarious to me when someone says, yeah, we're going to have a kid in 3 years and, we're just, right now I'm just working on my career and then we're going to get married and then slow down. You don't know. You don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't even know what I'm going to wear tomorrow. And that's kind of how we are though, right? We think, on, June 28th of 2020, we're going on an Alaskan cruise or whatever. This is just an example. But, we don't even have a clue what we're going to wear the next day, It's just sort of weird how that works. How people can plan really far ahead. And then, something happened that just totally just shakes their cage, rattles their world. And that's just something that I don't want to sound cliche by saying, we need to focus on that more. But I honestly try to, in my everyday life, I try to take each moment, each day, not every day, obviously, but I try to take each day as it sort of unfolds. I have an idea about what I'm going to do this weekend or, coming up, but I don't have a clue about what I'm going to do 2 months from now. I was watching a video today about a guy, and it's sort of what prompted this, discussion right now. What made me think of it was he was talking about how, he was like a bodybuilder, and he had 2 serious injuries where he was rock climbing or what's it called? Not spelunking. Dang, where you get the bungee cord and you sort of for the life of me I can't think of it right now. anyways, he was, dropping down from the edge of a cliff, and he was tied to a rope and just sort of easing his way down. And all of a sudden, like he fell, his footing slipped, and he basically shattered his kneecap. And he was just talking about how thankful he was, in retrospect, retroactively. Obviously, he wasn't thankful in the moment. But looking back, he said it made him realize what was important. And that lifting weights, he sort of planned his day around lifting weights, and then that sort of fell through. And he is just had more time to, focus on himself, making him his, quote unquote spiritual life better. Not necessarily, I don't know if he believes in God. I think he does, but not that just working on him and focusing less on the sort of the outer shell, and just like all the things we take for granted on a daily basis. Like when you get in that routine of everyday life, you just unconsciously, I feel like, take things for granted. Like you see, you flip on the light switch, the most mundane thing we do every day. We flip on the light switch, and we have good lighting. We have electricity where I live. And in some places of the world, not to, again, sound cliche, but there are some places that, they're rocking candles. They're rocking, 15th century AD equipment. Or 15th century BC, whatever you want to say, whatever it is. They're rocking a old school equipment. And we just take that for granted. Air conditioning, a good bed, I cannot stress that, a solid bed. My buddy the other day, or here a while back, he had a real shabby bed that he had actually just got. And you can't feel bad for the guy enough. Like there's nothing worse than, sleeping in a shabby bed. You ever spend the night with somebody and you just sleep like just absolute T-rash? You know what I'm saying? Like you spend the night with somebody, your pillow ain't right, the bed ain't right, it's too small, because it's more than likely a spare bedroom. It's too small, and you're all crunched up. It's dusty. I mean, you wake up with a hard cold in the morning. Like you wake up and your nose, like seriously got stopped up because you sleeping in a foreign bed. You got that foreign pillow you laying your dome piece on. And what am I trying to say? We just take things for granted. We take things for granted hard. And especially when my dad died, all that stuff sort of came to the forefront of my mind. I remember sitting in the hospital, not knowing what the outcome was going to be. And I remember looking out the window. I might have told this before, and looking at like all the cars that were going by and thinking like that used to be me. 3 months ago, that was me driving the car while someone else looked out the window. There was a movie I watched the other day, and it was with Joaquin Phoenix. And gosh, I mean, damn Joaquin Phoenix. Let's just be real. That son B can act. I mean, you put him in anything, and it's going to be good. I don't care if it's a shoddy film or not. Like, you put him in what you put him in? You put him in a Tyler Perry movie, and he's getting an Oscar. I don't know how he pulls it off, but he'll get an Oscar. He'll play Tyler Perry and get an Oscar. It'll be Tyler Perry's, Medea, Joaquin Phoenix, Part 5. One of those spin-offs where Joaquin just sort of comes in and takes over, starts method acting. But I watched a movie the other day. It was called You Were Never Really There, I think. And it's so like, it was such a aesthetic movie. There wasn't a lot of dialogue in it. And I'm like a big movie guy anyway. Like, I like to watch movies. Weird movies, like I literally just got through watching American Psycho. Like, that's not just a movie you just say, yeah, I think I'm going to watch that today. Yeah, well, check me. Check that box for me, because I do. I watched The Machinist a while back. Who watches The Machinist more than twice? Maybe you watch it 1.5, but you definitely don't watch it 3 and 4 times. I think I've only watched it twice. Anyways, so I watched You Were Never Really There. Super sort of ominous and brooding, and had this feel of just, I don't know what it's like to have PTSD or have that sense of whatever that feeling is that accompanies PTSD, but I feel like it played it beautifully, what it meant to be lonely and unseen, but involved in things, and just that's it. Just sort of was picturesque of a daily life of the mundane individual that you don't think of. Not that a mundane individual is bad, but just that person you see in Walmart when you're crossing them and you think nothing of it. They were never really there. That's not what the movie's about, but that's sort of what it made me think of. Like, you see people in your everyday existence, and maybe they have a family. Maybe they're going home to just, eat Cheetos and play Call of Duty on a beanbag. Like, who knows? But, like, it makes you think. It makes you think how many people you interact with throughout your week that are never really there. They're never really there consciously in your brain. Like, you see them, you get some food, and maybe they're your cashier and they check you out, and then they just vanish. They just vanish. I won't spoil it, but there's a great scene at the end of the movie where they're just sitting there, and they sort of vanish from where they're at. Not like in a Houdini way. Not like you flush the toilet and your poop goes down the drain and it's gone. Not like that. But like in a way where it's, I don't know. It just made me think of. It made me think a lot of stuff, and I think good movies like that are very ambiguous. They don't have a straightforward meaning, and a lot of people can't take that. They want the next Marvel superhero movie. They want things to be nice and neatly wrapped up in a package, and that is sort of your typical fairy tale ending, and not every fairy tale involves, Snow White or the Lion King, but they want that sort of mythic, grand ending where everything sort of works out in the good guys' favor. And that's not life at all. A lot of people hate films that are, leave you with that ambiguity and that unknowing of what's going to happen. But that's life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's life. And there's something, maybe archaic, maybe something deep, like down in you, that when you open yourself up to those type of films, that just sort of shake you and go, yeah, that's freaking how that's how it is. Like, it's not kissing, it's not finding that slipper at the bottom of the staircase and go and find a Cinderella. It's not like that. It's Cinderella, gets cancer. What is this turned into? For real though, it's like it's Cinderella got warty feet, and you're gonna have to deal with. You can't even get the slipper on because she's got some nasty feet. But that's really how life is. It's not always that fairy tale ending. It's not always that, That's why I like movies that make you really go, oh my, whoa. You sort of walk out just sobbing. You can't take those movies every day. I mean, every once in a while you got to throw in, Friday or Friday After Next or Dumb and Dumber. I mean, you can't always get that hit of Titanic. Nobody liked to see Leo die, but that's life. The door wasn't big enough. It's just wasn't. He couldn't fit. I mean, they have done some studies to show that he probably could have fit, but that wouldn't have. That's one movie where it wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, he's got to die. He's got to. You've got to see that vanishing hand, slipping off into the black ocean, the Atlantic. I think it was the Atlantic. I mean, that's one movie where you're like, okay, and you just walk out and the top of your t-shirt is like soaking wet from crying. I do remember seeing that in theaters, and neither one of my parents knew, I don't think, that a titty was going to be showing on screen. And I'll be dang if a titty didn't pop up on screen. My parents didn't. I didn't know that. Caught us all off guard. That's when you're just kind of quiet, I forget how old I was. I was young. But I mean, there was other kids in there in the theater, and then that came up, and it was like, I did actually think I saw a parent throw their hand over their child's eyes, and it's too late. He knows what's happened. He's seen the woman's breast, and there's no coming back. I gotta pause this for a second. Okay, I'm back. I think. Where was I? Ah, yeah. The woman's breast. I actually saw some parents in there. They were trying to cover their kids' eyes, as the kids were like trying to look through the little cracks in the forefingers that you make when you try to cover your eyes, or they were telling their kids to cover their eyes, and they were doing the whole lift one finger and look through the. But those were the days, man. Those were the days when you got dropped off by your parents at the movie theater, and then they picked you up. You called them after it was over, and they picked you up, and you kind of, if anything, if you touch pinkies with the girl in the theater, that was successful. I mean, you had a successful night. If you pinky touched, like if both of your arms were sort of resting on the same armrest, and your fingers kind of met, and maybe they interlocked, maybe you held hands with her, and then that was really a success. That was like a night that you told your buddies about, like when you're 13 or 14. You're like, yeah, we freaking held hands, And then it just got sloppy, when you get 10th grade. I mean, stuff's getting weird, in the movie theater. Or at least my buddies, it's the conversation. Let's just say that it didn't, the movie might have been PG, but that was the only thing PG about the area, the scene. The scene was PG, but the, outside the screen was a little more R, if you know what I'm saying. Maybe PG-14. Because that was probably the age. Maybe not 13, but PG-15, 14, something like that. So where was I? Taking things for granted and planning for the future. I don't get when people, plan ahead. It's always funny to me, especially when young, I obviously own a tuxedo shop. And it's funny to see new couples. I've been doing this for a little while now, probably 6 years. And it's funny to see when couples, you can just kind of tell that they're either still in the honeymoon stage. I mean, there's just so many different scenarios, but one that always fascinates me is like when a couple really thinks they got it together and they probably hadn't even farted around each other yet. Like, you don't even know if if it's really going to work unless you fart around each other. I mean, you got to crack one off. Make sure everything's still, make sure the house is still stable. Make sure the foundation is still there. I mean, because, I'm not big on farting. I think it's funny, Name one guy that don't think farting's funny, but I think some guys have, they're still in that stage where they hadn't heard their fiance fart. You hadn't heard her fart? Really? And you're getting engaged and you haven't heard her crack one off? I mean, I'm pushing on her stomach at that point. I'm trying to make her fart so I know what it's. So I've had the experience. You gotta. I'm not saying you gotta smell it. I'm saying you gotta hear her fart. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. You can't be with a girl and get engaged and you haven't heard her fart. I don't even know if that's a real thing, but just imagine that. Imagine you're with a girl for, people are getting wild with it. People getting engaged like a year in. A year in, you don't even know what it's like. You don't even know. You haven't really seen her lose it. You haven't been down the murderer's row of arguments within a year. When me and my wife got engaged, we'd been dating for like 3 or 4 years. Like, I wanted to be sure. Some guys, they just want to lock it down. They want to lock that down. They want to lock it down. And they think throwing a ring on it's going to make it better. If anything, it'll make it worse. Then you got to be with them 24/7. You got to live with them, really? And you haven't heard them fart? And you got to live with them? I don't get it. They think, and it is crazy when people marry for looks too. That always fascinates me. Like when some guys, and I won't name names, but someone I'm thinking of in particular, he was just marrying to lock that down. Like he has the key right now. He had the key currently. He's like, man, I got to put it in this lock and turn it and throw it away. Otherwise, someone else is going to come with a bigger key or a nicer looking key, and they're going to take it and they're going to lock it down. So I gotta make that move and throw this key in the ocean, bro. So that's what he did. And, he's not a looker. I'm not saying I'm not saying you got to be Tom Cruise. And that is a specific example because Tom Cruise, is the man. There's really no other way of saying it. And there's been rumors him being gay. He may be, but that just shows you how much of a man he is. He's getting both genders. People who are gender fluid, people who maybe they're a frog. They decide to be a frog one day. He can pull that. But this guy, you could just tell. You could just tell he's trying to lock it down. Throw that key so deep in the ocean where nobody ever finds it. And he did. God bless him. God bless him for that. Maybe they'll have a great marriage. She doesn't seem like the type that'd be cool with farting around him either. Like they may not have even done it yet. Yeah, like he's done it because he's just gross. He is just blah, blah. Like there's dad bod, and then there's like Jello bod. That's not a good metaphor. There's dad bod, and then there's Larry Cable Guy. Larry the Cable Guy bod. That's probably that. He's like in between the dad bod and Larry the Cable Guy, and that's no place to be. Apparently, she likes it. Apparently, she's into it. I don't get it, but and two, women are susceptible, especially. I feel like after coming off a bad relationship, sort of being out in the wild for a little while, sort of being back on the open market for a minute, and then another guy swoops in just right at the right time. It's not because he's Tom Cruise; it's because he's there. He swoops in just right at the right time. You think about like some fish are harder to catch than others. And one maybe just gets tired one day. It's not because you got the best bait. He just thinks, man, I could take this bait. And then he gets hooked. And then it's too late. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like people are just getting married younger and younger. And I don't know the data on that. Like, I don't know the statistical analysis as to when people are getting married. I think it's like becoming more split at both ends, if that makes sense. Meaning it is becoming either they're getting married a lot younger or they're waiting a lot later. There's no like really in between state anymore. There's never like a mid 20s. It's either like late 20s or it's like really, like 18, 19. And then they're probably pregnant. If it's like that, let's just be realistic here. I'm being a realist. They're not, in love. This is not the 50s. You get married at 17 or 18, there's probably a bee in the oven. That's just I have absolutely no data to back that up, but that's just a generalization that I think is, more accurate than not. So yeah, just, I guess what I'm saying is what this whole episode, I guess you could say, revolves around is being patient and not taking things for granted. Being patient and not taking things for granted. Be nicer to the the lady who jacked up your order, even though you don't want to, even though she's probably been a douchebag and, definitely didn't put your straw in the bag, and now you have to circle around because you don't want to lip the side of the cup. You want the straw in the casing, so when you pull it out, it's pretty much been doctor's sealed. You definitely don't want to, and who knows? I mean, who knows what they do? I'm sure there's some absolute freaks out there who, wipe their, put their finger in their butthole and then smear it around, and I don't even want to think about it. It makes me gross. It makes me sick thinking. Who knows what some of these fast food restaurant workers do? We don't know. That's why you want that Dr. Seal. You want that paper casing around your suck shaft, your straw. So yeah, be thankful, be grateful for the things that really irritate you. I'm not saying be thankful for them. I'm saying handle it with more grace and realize that it's not like the end of the world. It may suck now, but looking at it from my dad's perspective, it may work out all right in the end. May work out all right in the end. Who knows? I know there have been things in my life where I legitimately thought I was at the end of my rope. Like I wasn't going to hang myself or something, but not like literally at the end of the rope and then it broke. But metaphorically speaking, I was at the end of my rope. I felt like, my life's going to end. How am I going to get past this? And then looking back, it couldn't have been better. It couldn't have been any better for me. Like had I stayed in X relationship, had I stayed in X scenario X, it might have been terrible. But looking back, things have had a way of working themselves out. I believe a lot in intentionality. What are your intentions in this life? What actions are you doing, and what are the intentions behind those actions? I'm not saying it's always going to work out in your favor. I'm saying given the right actions coupled with the right intentions, things, when you look back on them, you can look back on them with more, what's the word? You can look back on them in more a favorable way. You can look back on them and think, you ran a good race when it came to whatever it was, and but recognizing your routine and sort of stepping out of that your routine is hard. And that's sort of what I'm trying to ultimately say, I think, when I first sort of had this idea today about not planning for the future is, looking at your routine and then stepping out of that mentally and thinking, why in the frick why do I care that this dude is not using his blinker? I had plenty of time. Why do I care that, I got charged an extra 25 cents for these bananas? I don't even eat bananas. That's a terrible analogy. But, I do eat bananas if they're there, but I don't, go out like Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark and look for them. I mean, if they're present in my, realm, if they're in my vision, I may pick one up. If they're at a party and they're serving bananas, I may be like, oh, let's peel this sucker back and shove it in my mouth. But don't get ticked. Life's way too short, and that's one thing I'm realizing. It's way too short to mess with crap, to worry about stuff that. Here's a little gem. I might end on this. Terrence McKenna, who I'm a big fan of, he stated it in this way: worrying is a form of hubris. Worrying is a form of hubris. It's arrogant to worry because you're presupposing a knowledge you do not have. You're saying when you worry, intentionally when you worry, you're presupposing a scenario that hasn't even taken place. You're thinking, this is what's going to happen. Otherwise, you wouldn't be worried about it. If you thought differently, or if you sort of came at it from a neutral standpoint, maybe you wouldn't think that way. But you're already freaking in drive and like ready to, your foot is on the gas and on the brake at the same time, and that's anxiety. You got to put it in park or put it in neutral and just chill. Just chill. Take things as they come. Don't worry so much, and then just freaking let the chips fall where they may. This sounds so like I'm such a sophist right now. But I'm trying, right now in my life, I'm trying to live with an intention of just go with it. Just go with it. Well, I hope you guys had a good time listening to this. For those of you who have stuck around, I really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.